Hello, friends, and welcome to an echo of the past channel. My name is Amelia Earhart, and if you know me, it's probably as the woman who disappeared somewhere over the Pacific Ocean. But I'd like you to know me a little better as the woman who refused to accept what society expected and who chose the sky as her home. I was born on July 5th, 1810 in Atchison, Kansas, into a family that was anything but ordinary. My father, Edwin, was a lawyer, but also a bit of a dreamer and, unfortunately, an alcoholic. My mother, Amy, was a strong woman who taught us that girls could do everything boys could. I remember the first time I saw an airplane when I was 7 at the Iowa State Fair. It was just a box made of wood and canvas, but something inside me awakened in that moment. The other children were afraid of the noisy machine, but I was mesmerized. One day I'll be up there, I told myself. My sister Muriel and I were complete little rascals. We built a roller coaster at home, climbed trees, and played football. I had a collection of peacock feathers, old shells, and all sorts of things we found on our adventures. Mom bought us pants instead of skirts. Imagine the scandal in 1903. Dad struggled with alcohol, and our family moved often. During my childhood, I attended 6 different schools. Maybe that's why I learned to be independent so early. I had to constantly adapt to new places and new people. But I also learned that home isn't a place, it's a feeling of freedom. I graduated from high school in Chicago, but my life truly changed in 1917 when I visited my sister in Toronto. Canada was at war, and I saw the first wounded soldiers returning from Europe. I couldn't just sit by and watch their suffering. I interrupted my studies and became a nurse at a veterans hospital. It was hard work, bandaging wounds, comforting men who screamed from trench nightmares. But I also met pilots from the Royal Flying Corps there. Their stories of flying, of freedom above the clouds, rekindled that childhood longing in me. One day I went to an air show at Armour Heights. I watched the planes hover in the sky like birds, and I knew this is what I want to do today. One pilot even seemed to attack me. He swooped down and flew straight at me. Instead of fear, I felt excitement. Try to catch me, I thought to myself. In 1920, I finally persuaded my father to pay for my first flying lesson. Pilot Nada Snook, also a woman, took me in her yellow Curtiss JN-4, which she called Canary. The moment we hit the ground, I knew I had found my life's destiny. Once you get in the air, I said later, you know you've been there all along. The sky was my home, the clouds my neighbors, the horizon my challenge. I saved every penny for my own plane. I worked as a photographer, as a teacher, doing whatever I could to earn money for the Kenner Air Stir, a little yellow plane I called Canary after my teacher. In 1922, I set a new altitude record for women with it, 14,000 feet. But flight wasn't just a hobby, it became my passion, my way of life. Flying taught me that limits exist only in our minds. When you fly above the clouds, you don't see national boundaries. You don't see the differences between people. You only see a beautiful world waiting to be explored. In 1928, my life changed forever. I got a call from Captain Hilton Rayleigh. "Would you like to be the first woman to cross the Atlantic?" he asked. I didn't hesitate for a second. Wilmer Stoltz piloted and Lewis Gordon navigated. I was officially just a passenger. We flew from Newfoundland to Wales in a Lockheed Vega for 20 hours and 40 minutes. When we landed at Buryport, there were crowds of people and reporters waiting for us. Suddenly, I was as famous as a movie star. They called me Lady Lindy after Charles Lindbergh. But you know what? That wasn't good enough. I said, I was just a sack of potatoes. Maybe one day I'll actually fly by myself. The fame was weird. People saw me as a symbol of female emancipation, but I felt like a fraud. I wasn't even flying the plane. I decided I had to prove to myself that I was really up to it. May 20th, 1932, a date I will remember forever. I took off from Harbor Grace in Newfoundland in my red Lockheed Vega, alone this time. The destination was Paris, just like Lindbergh, but the ocean decided to test me. After a few hours, my altimeter broke, then the gasoline started leaking. I could feel it dripping on my shoulders. The worst was when frost started forming on the wings. The plane became as heavy as a rock. I could see flames shooting out of the engine exhaust. This is the end, I thought. But then I remembered all the women who believed in me, and then all the girls who dream of flying. I couldn't let them down. Instead of flying 15 hours to Paris, I flew almost 15 hours and landed in a pasture in Northern Ireland. The farmer looked at me and said, "How far did you come from?" "From America," I replied. His expression was priceless. I became the first woman to fly across the Atlantic alone. But more importantly, I proved to myself that I could do it. The following years were a roller coaster, flight after flight, record after record. I flew back and forth across the United States, the first person to fly solo from Honolulu to California across the Pacific. I almost died twice, but I came back stronger each time. I married George Putnam, my publisher and manager. I called him GP and he called me AE. It wasn't a traditional marriage. I was still flying, writing books, lecturing. He supported my independence, even though he worried about me. But I had one big unfulfilled longing. I wanted to fly around the world, around the equator where the earth is widest. No one had ever done it before. I was 40 years old, almost old enough to be a pilot. It's now or never, I told myself. I bought a Lockheed Electra, the most advanced twin-engine aircraft of the time. We planned a 29,000-mile route around the world. I was to be accompanied by a navigator, Fred Noonan, a former Pan American Airways pilot and expert in celestial navigation. The first attempt in March 19th failed. Our plane broke down on takeoff in Honolulu. We had to return to California for repairs. But giving up was not in my nature. On June 1st, 19th, we took off from Miami, heading east. Miami, South America, Africa, India, New Guinea. Each time we were greeted by crowds of people. I felt like a messenger of goodwill, proof that the world is smaller than we think. After 22,000 miles, we arrived in Lae, New Guinea. It was only 7,000 miles to home, the most dangerous part of the flight, across the Pacific to Howland Island, a tiny piece of land in the middle of a vast ocean. July 2nd, 1930, 10 a.m. local time. We took off from Lae with full tanks. The plane was heavy but strong. Fred checked the navigation instruments. I was in control. Ahead of us lay 2,556 miles of ocean. The first hours were uneventful. We were flying at 12,000 feet. The sky was clear. I talked to Fred about how we would celebrate in Oakland when we finished our around-the-world flight. But then the weather started to turn bad. Strong headwinds were slowing us down. We were using more gasoline than planned. After 16 hours of flying, we should have been over Howland Island, but all I could see was the endless blue of the ocean. I tried to radio the Coast Guard on Howland. "I can't hear you. I'm running on a north-south line." Those were the last words I picked up. "We were running out of gas," Fred whispered. "Amelia, we have to land at sea." I could see the surface of the ocean approaching. At that moment, I felt not fear, but a strange relief. I was living life to the fullest, flying, loving, inspiring others. Where was I? You may never find out. I may have died in a crash landing at sea. Maybe I arrived on some small island where I lived as a castaway. Maybe I was captured by the Japanese and died in captivity. But you know what? It doesn't matter how my story ended. What matters is how I lived. I showed the world that women could fly as well as men, that boundaries are meant to be crossed, that the dream of flying is not just for men. Every girl who looks at the sky today and dreams of flying, every woman who doesn't let her dreams deter her, she is a continuation of my story. I always say that adventure is worthwhile in itself. I lived adventure every day. I flew because I had to. It was in me, stronger than fear, stronger than reason. So the next time you look up in the sky and see an airplane, think of me. Remember the woman who refused to settle for an ordinary life, who chose the sky over the safety of the earth. And maybe I'm still flying out there somewhere, in that little piece of freedom between the earth and the stars. That's my home. Courage isn't paid for with discount coupons. It's bought with only one price: the decision to live fully, no matter the consequences. And so ends Amelia Earhart's story, as she might have told it herself, a woman who chose the freedom of heaven over the safety of earth and who inspired generations of women to follow their dreams regardless of societal expectations. If you enjoyed this story, please give us a like and don't forget to subscribe to an Echo of the Past channel. Turn on notifications in your doorbell so you don't miss more fascinating life stories of individuals who changed the world. Let us know in the comments who you'd like to hear about next. We are very interested in your suggestions. Share this video with friends who love historical stories and help us spread these voices from the past further. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you for the next episode, where we'll bring you another incredible life story straight from the mouth of its protagonist. An echo of the past, where history comes alive.